right. Well, I think we have quorum here, so why don't we go ahead and get started if there are no objections. It is 6 o'clock on the 21st of January, 2025. We'll call to order the Halifax Finance Committee. Present on the call are Cheryl Burke, Mike Bennett, Frank Johnston, Bill Smith, and myself. Currently absent are Ed Bryan and Mike Rignetta, hoping they will probably join us here very briefly.
Yeah, Mike's on.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez. There he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, down the
And
bottom right.
Lindsay from the town. There he is. Okay. So
Lindsay's
Lindsay.
on.
Got it. All right. I need to change the view here. Okay. All right. So Mike is present. Thanks for joining, Mike. We will go ahead and get started. So earlier this week, there was the distribution of the minutes from the meeting on the 6th. Has everyone had an opportunity to review these?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any adds, changes, or deletions?
No.
Look good.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
Mike Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes, on the minutes from 01/06/2025.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And Mr. Rignetta?
That's a yes from me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm a yes as well. So that motion passes with the full support of the board. Okay, so we will close out that item. We will now move to the next item. So this was for the school meeting that took place on the 15th. No, I'm sorry.
16th.
16th. So I was there along with Cody, and John Steely came to and was also present, and so was Tom Pratt. Frank was there, and EJ came in. So Frank, why don't you go ahead first, give your your synopsis of what you heard, and for the benefit of the committee.
It was a full house from Kingston, Plimpton, Halifax, and then the unions and school committees. They just are in a dilemma on coming to a consensus on where and when they're going to have numbers to present, and they have little to no interest in presenting an estimated overall cost budget to us. And Kingston pushed pretty hard on them. Kingston's TA did about, having some numbers we can, work with, but they wouldn't commit to putting together an estimated number for the year to present so that we could formulate our budgets and also have an understanding of where they really are. And that's about all I can say on that matter.
Okay, so that's fairly that is a correct representation of what happened. It was a full house. They had a number of people in the meeting room in Kingston. They also had quite a few people on their Zoom that you could see that was up on the wall. All the towns kind of made a statement as to where we were financially. I think we as a town had let the school know we could do, I think, like 2% over last year's budget, which is what our anticipated revenue growth is. Both the high school excuse me, the high school's budget was 11.3% over last year's budget. And the middle school, and Frank, keep me straight here, but I think the middle school was like about 20% over, or maybe that's
Yes.
reversed.
Lindsay, what did Cody say on the middle school this morning in our meeting when we met with the fire department? He had mentioned, was it 20 or 23% or
I thought
something
he
of that
said
nature?
like 23.5.
Yeah, and I believe it was like 17.5 for the regional school, the high school. I don't quite remember, but those were the numbers he was working with, and
Right.
um,
So the elementary school's budget was has a deficit based on what they propose versus what we can afford of $1.5 million. The high school, based on what they propose versus what we can afford, that or all three towns can afford, is a $2 million difference. So it's quite a gap that needs to be covered at
right.
that point. Um, there's also there's questions about circuit breaker dollars. I think we're still waiting for Chapter 70 money and cherry sheets to be posted at this point. I know the governor just released her budget like this week, so I'm sure those numbers will start populating. Um, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a battle. Maybe not so much a battle, but it's going to be tight regardless of which way we go. Trying to figure out where they can make cuts and what the town can afford. I don't believe that there was some of the I think Kingston addressed the Kingston Finance Committee chair addressed a potential override that he didn't believe would get approved in Kingston. I think we didn't we as our committee we didn't talk about that, but Cody said that was also something that would be a bit of a challenge to get through here in Halifax. So it's not going to be it's going to be you know we're going to have to check all the pockets everywhere basically to help try to kind of close this gap as best we can. The state the guy from the committees that liaisons with the state so far as dollars is concerned, he spoke for a few minutes. One of the things we want to make sure that we're getting is full reimbursement for the special education transportation, which transportation is the biggest spend we've got here with the schools. So he's working with the Healy administration to make sure those dollars are coming back. I think we're checking on I think the millionaires tax was supposed to subsidize education too. So where is that money and what are they, when's it going to come to the school to help defray some of these costs? So it's we're going to have a lot to talk about over the next couple of months before town meeting and before we can really finalize a budget. It's just going to be, it's going to be tight everywhere. I think all three towns are in a position, except maybe Plimpton might be in a better position than we are from a deficit perspective, meaning they have less of a deficit to cover than we do. But that's just my opinion. I have no substantive proof of that. But that's just how it kind of sounded when they were talking to us at the meeting.
Yes, and the other part of that was the migrant population. What did they say? 56 students, 60 students, somewhere around that number, are in the Kingston school system.
That is correct. Yes.
At least up until the next 3 or 4 months, it sounded like. And I'm not sure where that's going to go due to the fact of the potential to lose that housing over there at the facility that they're currently using with the state.
Right.
And they talked about the cost reimbursement from the state and I believe the federal government for those students, to include the transportation as well as the English to Spanish language teachers and the student population. So there is money coming from other sources than the actual towns to cover the cost of those students.
Yeah, I think those were all the highlights, Frank. I don't think everything else was just kind of general commentary on the same
Yeah.
subject matter. Each town got a chance to speak to the schools. The schools got their chance to speak. Um, and they're they proposed three levels of cuts. I think the tier three, the first level was already done because that was like ordering and supplies and some things like that that they didn't get that they normally would get. I also think that they were looking at tier two and tier three, which would be people at that point. So paraprofessionals and teachers, but then
Teachers.
that would increase class size. So, it's going to be it's a bit of a fine edged, sword that we're riding here with what can be done from a dollars perspective. So, as we said earlier, we should, from a Halifax perspective, should be looking at everything that's out there that we could possibly claw back to help kind of close that gap, both with the high school but more so with the elementary school
Right.
at this point. So that's kind of where we're gonna be. And to that end, I think we have, and Lindsay, I think you're on this too. Tomorrow at noon, we've got a call with Cody, Lindsay, myself, and the elementary school. Is that right? Yeah. So we've got that tomorrow to kind of drill into what they have and what they can do, if they can do anything at this point. So um, that is the gist of the school meeting, I think. Frank, you think did I miss anything?
No, I think that's pretty good. A lot of ground was covered. There was some informative information there. I thought the meeting went, pretty well. Learned a couple of things and also a few things I didn't learn because they didn't want to speak on behalf of.
Right.
But it's a good start, better than last year. So we'll kind of see where things go, and they understand our position and where we're at with our budgets and the money. It's just, we have X dollars and that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones, school district in the same position. If you read the articles on South Shore News about each of the school district meetings, everybody's pretty much in the same place, with the exception of, I think maybe Marshfield is doing fairly well. I read that today. So that's the only positive one I've seen in a while was Marshfield.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything either. So
Yeah.
I must have missed this Marshfield one, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of in the same bucket across the state.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. Anybody have any questions? I can certainly take them down and get them over to Cody, or just email them to the group, and we can get them over to Cody to get him any answers that we don't specifically have. But those are the notes that I took from the meeting on the 16th. All right. Okay. So we will close out the agenda item for the school meeting recap. And we will move on to the FY26 budget liaison update. So I believe, so I'll kick it off. I believe that myself and Cody have covered all the teams that we were going to talk to from a liaison perspective. So we looked at what they initially came in. We had a couple of questions, asked them to come back with a couple of things. So once they return those, we'll be able to kind of finalize those numbers and get them out in front of the team here.
Yeah.
So,
I have the same comments. I met with mine last week with Cody, and we're waiting for something from COA and police.
okay.
Yeah, I had my second meeting with fire department and Cody today, and Lindsay got revised budgets back from the chief. He was able to tighten it up pretty good. Maybe about a $6,000 differential now,
Okay.
which he did a good job cleaning things up. So we're going to go with those numbers. And then buildings was another big one I had. We got
Is
that
that you?
done. Excuse me?
You're the buildings guy?
No, the building inspector guy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have Scott.
And he had a really clean budget. There's not a lot of room to trim in his anyhow. Some
Okay.
office supplies and things of that nature. It's just him and his administrative assistant in there. And so his numbers look good. So we checked that off. And yeah, so good to go there.
right.
And a couple of miscellaneous ones I had, small departments that are just straightforward, same as last year numbers. So
Okay. All right. Everybody else doing okay with theirs?
Yeah, I've had meetings with all my departments. Just waiting for some responses back
Okay.
for a few questions, things like that. And we should be good.
All right. So Cheryl, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You do the buildings department?
I have Scott. That was just, hold on a minute. Town buildings, yeah, I have Scott Moderna.
Okay. So
He needs to, we met with him. I met with all three of them last week with Cody. He needs to send us more on his 10% reduction and some explanations.
okay.
And once he does, I think we'll be doing okay.
All right. Well, the next time you chat with him, if you could have him kind of walk you through his articles where he's got about $470,000 in unspent money.
Okay.
yeah,
I'd be interested to understand why we are where we are with that, especially an article that went back to 2012.
Okay.
Do you want to have a look at it, Cheryl, when you when you log on to your email? If you look at the Lindsay sent out the most recent budget status. So on page 19, it's section 192 under public buildings and property.
Okay. Okay. I will look. Yeah, Scott, right? Yeah, Scott Maternal. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mike, you doing okay with yours? Or
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, wrong mic.
Mike Rignetta.
Okay. Yeah. Mine are straightforward. Cody had checked in with them already. No need for meetings, he said. They are all no issues at all.
Very good. How's the library going?
Actually, her budget was pretty straightforward this year,
Okay.
so there wasn't too much of a problem at all. We had a couple questions for her, but she was able to take care of those.
All right. Very good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other feedback or updates, we'll close
Who's,
out that specific.
Jim, who's got highways?
I do.
Mike does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Bennett.
Yeah. I'd already met with Steve.
Is he getting you money back?
No,
No.
not at the moment. No.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Anyone else?
I just
Here we
think that having the in-person meetings early on, like we've done last year and again this year, for me personally, with the team in there together with town administrator, town accountant, assistant town accountant, and the department head and myself, I think go really well. We cover a lot of ground. We can walk through a lot of things, and then come back in a quick follow-up if need be. I think that's working out really well. I really like that format we've been using.
Mm-hmm. I think we made some really good progress with the meetings and stuff, with getting in front of the people, being able to talk to them, and kind of work through some things, and I think the meetings have been very productive so far as I'm concerned. So I hope we continue to get this level of cooperation.
Yeah, productive for both us and productive for the department heads as well.
Right.
Because they're also learning a lot as well as they go along here. So I think that's really good,
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. All right. So we'll wrap up that specific agenda item. We'll move over to committee liaison updates. So, again, I think, Frank, I think you and I have one like final meeting whenever that gets scheduled for the zoning bylaw committee review. Just to kind of,
Correct.
just to wrap up all the stuff we have kind of hanging out there right now.
Yeah, get a finalized deal so they can get it out ahead of town meeting.
Yep.
And also have the public meeting on it as well,
Yep.
because it's a lot to read through there.
That is true.
They're
Section
gonna need to-
167 is long.
Yes, they're going to need to allow some time for people to read through and understand some of the changes, and so yeah, they need to kind of maybe get moving. I'm not sure what Mr. Bruno's schedule is on that.
Yeah, he's a busy guy right now, it seems. So
Yes,
tough to nail him down.
we got a wage and personnel thing coming up too, I believe.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I did everybody. So I think the government HR report came out today.
Yes.
So if you all want to take a look at that, I gave it a quick scan over this morning. So when I got it, so I don't really have any kind of firm comments yet, but I did have a look at least the first section. So let's all read up on that, so we're ready for that meeting when it does come up.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else for updates, liaison updates? Okay, we'll say that agenda item is closed. Correspondent and as may arise. So I haven't gotten any emails for the finance committee from the public or anywhere else at this point. So we'll open the floor up for anybody who has anything they would like to discuss with from the finance committee with the other members of the finance committee. So whoever that would be, you have the floor should you have something to chat about. Okay, going once, going twice, going three times, hearing none. We will close out that. Public participation. Any members of the public that are on the call? I see at least someone on there. If you have a question for the finance committee or any comments, we welcome them, and if we can answer them, we absolutely will. Okay. Going once. Going twice, three times, hearing none. We will close out public participation. Next meeting planning. So the next meeting is, when is that? The 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, third.
Yeah, it's the 3rd. We're going to do that in person in the at the town hall. It'll be our first finance committee meeting in person for 2025, and
Still 6
Should-
p.m., right?
yes, still 6 p.m. Does that time work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the selectmen's room, or
I believe that's the one we reserved. I'll have to check with, I'll check with, Katie, make sure that that's what we got going on.
I'm here. I had to log in on my phone because my computer was doing an update, so I'm the other person. But yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how to talk on this thing, but I found it.
Okay.
And then for the in-person meetings, we have to do a form every time to reserve it. So I was just going to do ahead of time, do all the meetings that have to be in person.
Okay.
Is the first meeting every month? Is that what we
I think
decided?
that's what we settled on, I believe, when
Okay.
we voted on about it.
Okay, so I will get that over to the town's clerk's office.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
That's gonna be every Monday because the following Monday, I do know that someone is in there.
Well, I think the alternative would be we would just meet in the Great Hall, I think.
Okay,
It's only gonna be the first Monday of every month, is that correct, Jim? Or-
That is correct.
So it wouldn't be every Monday, Sue?
okay,
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
first Monday of the month. That's all.
okay, that's fine then.
Yeah. So we don't, we want to ease into it. We don't want to upset everybody's schedule.
Gotcha.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, that is it for next meeting planning. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring up with the group before we break?
Jim, have they certified the free cash yet?
I
No.
don't think so. Lindsay?
Last I knew, the consultant Bill was working on it. Cody wants it done by the end of this month, I believe. I know that the variances are down from what they were at, and it's like a much better spot than what it was before. He is coming in tomorrow, so I can talk to him tomorrow and just double check where he's actually at with that. But at this point, it is not done.
Okay. So we're hoping by the end of the month, by the end of January?
Hopefully, honestly, it's by the end of the week. But yes, by the end of January.
Okay.
Jim, I want to circle back to the school meeting last week real quick about the police officer.
Sure.
Because they gave a little bit of the chief gave a presentation and his lieutenant did as well regarding the resource officers over at the
At
two
the middle
schools
school.
there, the high school and the middle school, I believe it was. Is that correct? Middle school?
That's correct.
Currently, they're using 2 resource officers 3 days a week at the middle school on overtime rates that are certified. They only have 2 officers that are certified. And what they're proposing on doing is going to a full-time officer 5 days a week at a straight time rate versus an overtime rate to the towns is what they'd like to do.
What about the high school?
There's already one there.
They
Oh.
have a full-time officer there
Oh,
at
okay.
the high school, which Kingston picks up, I believe, 100% of that.
That would be
Correct,
correct.
yeah. That's
If I
what they told
remember
us in the past.
correctly. And so at the middle school, they want to go with a 5-day a week, 1 officer at a straight time rate, which means that they would have to hire a police officer to do that. And may be wrong on my numbers because he was throwing a couple of numbers around, but they were looking at $80,000 if I remember correctly. Here in my notes I wrote down regarding that position. And then we would pay what was it, Jim, a 0.8 or something?
Well, I think we pay a little over 3/4 of that, and I think Plimpton picks up the other portion of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what they're proposing to do going forward in this next budget year here.
Those numbers make sense to you, Bill?
depends what their starting salary is. I'm sure they're not going to hire someone right off the street and put them in the school. They're going to use someone who's been there for a couple of years, and if they have steps and everything, that can be about right. I'd
Okay.
have to look at their contract. I know the Kingston chief very well. I can reach out to him and talk to him. I know him very well.
Sure.
Yeah, he's just getting his feet wet over there, he said,
Yep.
so.
Yep, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he seemed like it. He's trying to wrap his hands around quite a few things, he said.
Yep. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're gonna, because he only has two, according to the lieutenant, he only has two certified resource officers. So I would think one of those is probably what they're considering using, I would think. Instead of hiring another officer to put them in the schools and foregoing one of those two positions there, but.
And keep me straight here, Frank. Didn't he say that the guy that's doing the middle school currently only does it 3 days a week?
That's correct. 3 days a week. And I'm not even sure they're full days.
Right.
Because he's coming off of day shift work.
Right.
Right. So, and I think that's why they use two offices within that to pick it up. And also, another reason they want to go with a full-time officer is because of some incidents they've been having in the school and things of that nature, and getting somebody more wrapped into what's happening with some issues within the school student body.
Become very challenging in the schools.
Yeah, especially at that age, I would think.
Yeah. Technology is not a friend.
Yeah, and there's a few other things going on. He didn't elaborate on them, but
Yeah.
You're around long enough to kind of read between the lines.
Okay. Yeah.
Jim, and you being a former police officer, you kind of probably knew where he was coming from.
Yeah. Kids are tough.
Yeah, at that age group, right?
Yeah, they're tough at that age. A lot of things going on in their heads when they're in middle school.
Yeah, especially like Bill mentioned with the technologies and stuff of that nature.
Roger that.
So I just wanted to circle back to that.
No, it's good, Frank. I had come that had slipped my mind, so I'm glad you brought it up. So thank you for that. Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right. Well, then I think that is a wrap for the evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
Mike Bennett?
Yes.
Frank Johnston?
Yes, to adjourn, please.
Thank you, sir. Bill Smith?
Yes.
Mike Rignetta?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Thank you all for joining. Meeting is now adjourned at 6:33.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
all.
Thanks, everybody.
Great.